the thing is that, you know, that's work. Even though I'm not getting paid, it's work. And, you know, even though you're not getting paid right now, this is work. It's great fun, but it's work.
I'm not getting paid for talking to you.
But my point being is that, you know, we oftentimes hear about the robots coming to take away jobs and all these other things. But I can assure you, my team, who helps not only share posts, but create promotionals, work on the technology behind the scenes, work on the website, work on the YouTube channel, work on our Twitter feed, work on all the different aspects from fundraising to logistics, you name it. All of that is work. And if you think about it, in a society where money is distributed evenly, an organization like this could relatively easily afford to help offset some of their life costs and their investments in this. Now, mind you, it's a noble thing to donate your time, perhaps. But the flip side is that this is still a real resource of your own towards a cause, etc. So I just find it interesting that people are so quick to say automation is taking away all of our work, when in reality, there is incredible amounts of work out there that have to be done. I can assure you, between my regular 40-plus hour a week job that pays the bills and my non-paying job that I work more than double that, I'm putting in an incredible amount of time. I barely sleep. So I know that there's work left to be done in the country and around the world, quite frankly. So
before Steve says,
what's that?
What you're doing does not appear in the GDP.
No, it does not.
It appears in the GPI. You would impute a value for what you're doing, and it would be included as a positive in the GPI, but is not included in the GDP if you're just giving up your time and not being paid for it. So I just want to point that out. So,
well, I was going to say a couple of things. One is that in order for Phil was talking about costs being recorded very conservatively in the genuine progress indicator. And one respect in which that's true is the cost of unemployment. We had a look at some research from about the year 2000, where it's very careful statistical research into how much additional income you'd need to give somebody who became unemployed to compensate them in terms of their well-being for the involuntary loss of their job. And it was such a huge amount of money that you just couldn't put it in to a measure like the genuine progress indicator without completely undermining the whole statistic. That's how important involuntary unemployment appears to be to someone. It's one reason why just a universal basic income on its own, one of the many reasons why that just doesn't do the job, because yes, lost income is vitally important to people who are struggling to get by when they lose their jobs, but it's not the only problem. In fact, it's not the main issue with many people. And secondly, as you were saying about automation and work, if the human species ever gets to the point where we have so much automation that there is nothing that we can ever do for each other, then we may as well all just commit suicide. That would be the end of humanity. And we're not going to get to that point, thank God. Consequently, there will always be purposeful things that we can do for each other and for the community. And for that reason, if you have a job guarantee in place, it will always be possible to dignify that work by remuneration, by paying people to do it.
I also think automation's been going on for centuries.
Exactly.
Luddites and whatever. I think one of the great concerns about automation, if there is a need for some sort of concern, is that automation had a positive effect on most people, say 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, because what automation tends to do is it increases the productivity of an hour of work that Steve was talking about, and how the minimum wage should be more than 2 times in the USA what it is at present. So if the benefits of increased productivity were going sort of equitably to capital and to labour, what it would mean is that real wages would be rising, and would mean that people wouldn't have to work as many hours to obtain a reasonable income to live a reasonable existence. The problem is, and so when we had automation in the 50s and 60s, it didn't really matter. The working week got shorter. People weren't worse off. In fact, they became better off. But now we've moved into this era where we've got lack of wages growth and all the productivity gains are going to capital. It means that all the benefits from automation are going to capital. And those who are fortunate enough to have a job, their wages haven't been going up. And, of course, a lot of people don't have a job. So that's my greatest concern of automation. If we had a system in place where the benefits of productivity improvements from automation were equitably shared between capital and labour, it wouldn't be a problem. And, in fact, people would be able to do what economists talked about 50 to 100 years ago when they said we'd all be working 15 hours a week, which would give most people the minimum amount of hours they need to feel as though they're doing something purposeful.
Do you know what undermines that a bit, though? What undermines that a bit is that there is no evidence of all this automation. When you look at productivity per hour worked, it's not rising rapidly. It's rising more slowly than it's been rising for years. If we had all this automation that was supposedly transforming the workplace, where people weren't working anymore because everything was being done by automation, then output per hour of labour would be skyrocketing, and it isn't.
That's a deep...
Phil was talking about, there is one thing that Americans are not aware of that I should point out. Many Americans are not aware of. Phil was talking about people working fewer hours a week. Americans work longer hours than virtually anybody else in the world. Longer hours than all the Europeans, including the Germans. Longer hours, I think, even than the Japanese. Longer hours than the Australians. Americans are not working less and less time because automation is coming along. And Americans, because people at the bottom are not enjoying the benefits of rising income and relating to what productivity growth has happened, and in fact are being pushed into lower and lower productivity jobs very often. They're working longer and longer hours.
The very people pushing... I
understand where it's all coming from, all this nonsense, really.
Well, the very people that are pushing...
cause of concern,
The very people pushing basic income narratives are these individuals who are libertarian, who have a different bend in life. I mean, if you go back to Milton Friedman and his negative income tax rate and his idea of a basic income being the only thing wrong with capitalism is we need more of it. And here we have a situation where libertarians like the Koch brothers, who would love to dismantle any social safety net around the world, are actively pushing this narrative of automation and all these other things so that the left, ironically, is buying this. It's a Trojan horse to remove the social safety nets. And quite frankly, it disgusts me.